There we go. All right. So I think this is the last slide we did, or wasn't it? No, it was the one that we were starting to
Just hold
work
on 1
on.
minute. Okay. Uh, one thing I'm not too sure about.
Yes.
And A and D and OR seems almost, almost interchangeable. And if you want a broader search, it would
Yes.
seem that you would just use OR.
Right. So I guess as far as broadening of the search is concerned, you can use A and D, you can use OR. The only thing, the difference which I explained between the two is that A and D functions as it is supposed to. So there's no ambiguity in that.
Okay.
The only differentiator is between OR and AND is that OR basically takes a role or assumes a role of A and D as well as its own, which is to compare and find either or, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So A and D is temporarily triggered as a default action for OR to get started, or it becomes a second priority where A and D assumes that it has a role in helping out OR. Think of them as cousin brothers or brother sister. Right?
Okay.
And what A and D would have is okay, here there is a kind of a subtlety in understanding where A and D is actually enforced versus where A and D is assumed as a first default action, but it is not enforced. So between the two, let's look at. Let me do it in another way. Let's just think, and I think it's an interesting question first of all, and an intelligent one. So when we have two terms, let's say X, A and D, Y.
Well, X, A and D, Y. Okay, X and Y.
Yeah, X and Y. So X being, a term, search term, Y being another one. So when we do A and D, then the effect is basically X plus Y, right?
Yes.
And this is enforced, eh?
Okay, got it.
Like strictly
so
enforced.
yeah, so if we're looking for X-ray and yellow, we will get everything that has got X-ray and yellow. We'll get
Yes.
X-ray and yellow everywhere.
Right, exactly. Now think of it as if we are to apply an OR operator.
Okay.
Instead of A and D. Now what happens is that there'll be two actions. Okay?
Oh, so we
So
get X, we get X, we get everything
no,
with X, we get everything with Y, and we get everything with X and Y.
yeah. So if I have to put it in an equation format, let me show you. This is where I wanted to, explain the differentiator. So this is important. So the first action would be, and I'm going to combine it in a algebraic way so that everybody understands the brackets and things as I'm putting. So it would be, the first action is find X plus Y.
Okay.
The second action would be
find X.
Find X.
And the third would be find Y.
Or Y, right?
No, but there's, what my question is,
Let me show you. Yeah.
Would it, I think it would be find X and Y, find X, find Y.
No, okay. So what happens is when you do X, when you are assuming that it is, remember I told you it is A and D or OR. Basically, when you're running your OR command, right? So I'm
Yes.
explaining this. What happens is that it is going to try to find X plus Y first.
Yes.
Then, so this will be like a first action.
Uh-huh.
And this would be the second action. Collectively,
And it's, yeah.
let me make it even better, right? So first action is to find X plus Y. The second action is to find either X or Y. Okay, so this is the second action. In the
No, but when
first
you,
action, let me explain first. X plus Y means that it is an AND, assumed AND,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
But it is not enforced. This is the difference. It is not mandatory.
Um,
It is a matter of ease of finding it or finding it quickly, but not enforcing it is not enforced, eh?
okay, 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 okay.
So people, you see, usually because the students don't ask this question, they don't get to know what exactly is the meaning of A and D when it is supposed to be the first default action. In the case where OR is being used, the A and D action that happens, which is combined with OR, is not enforced, or it is not forcing the term to
Yes.
be
Yes.
found as two variables. It is
Okay.
just like, okay, I'll give it a shot. If it happens, or it happens, otherwise it's not necessary. So
Mm.
it is more like a way of search engine to say, I tried, but it was too hard to find. I don't want to go there. Then it's going to default to number two action, which is where it is going to find either of these two. Okay, so this is a bit technical in the sense that there is a provision in the programs or the algorithms of search engine which enforces a certain action versus makes it more of a casual kind of an action.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a casual AND. Okay,
Okay.
that's the subtlety, and that's perhaps something that I generally don't get into or give out details for. But basically, that's where you're getting the answer to your question. Okay?
Okay.
So this is enforced, and this is not. When you're using only AND, it is enforced. But when you're using X or Y, the first instance of X plus Y, which is the default action, is not enforced. It's not compulsory. It's just casual. Then what happens in the second instance, where the OR becomes a stronger or a more dominant action, it would definitely find either of the two on both sides
Mhm.
of the OR. Okay,
Okay. Now,
I hope.
another question is
Yeah.
that, um,
Yes.
I mean, I learned this see, I thought that when you do a search with a string, that the the computer looks at the first term first, the second term second, and if you have got 10 terms, that 10th term is looked at least. Is
Hmm.
that right?
No, actually, see, what happens is that it is a matter of linguistics as well as a matter of the type of language you're using. If it is English, it is supposed to be read from left to right, isn't it?
Mhm.
Right? But the search looks at the words more heuristically, like it would not have a convention to go left to right. It
Mm.
would just look at everything together.
Okay.
Like it would just look at it and say, okay, these two combined together is more prominent. This one alone is irrelevant. This does not work with or gel with or make sense in a linguistic way. So it has a mind of its own where it's making its choices of which one to pick. In that sense, it is linguistically not correct for the search to operate in a search query string where it should be read from left to right.
Uh,
However, there is another caveat or another rule to it. And I'm going to discuss that rule with you. And this part is a slight exception. In linguistics, remember, there are certain sciences that are not perfect. Okay. And some of the, well, I can give you an example of economics. It's not perfect. It just predicts, but it cannot guarantee. It does not work with the rules, but it works with historic events to come
Hmm.
up with what might. So it's not a perfect science. So is linguistics. And it evolves, it changes, it has a way of interpreting certain phrases to have a certain meaning. So intent translation, remember, is always an issue with the machine to interpret, or to actually be able to read the mind of whoever has written it. I would write something thinking that it is phrased correctly, and the same thought can be written in another way by somebody else, with the same sort of objective to what they wrote, but it might, with the slight change of if, then, or any of those wordings, might give a different sense to the search engine. So the signals are very difficult to interpret when it comes to linguistics.
Okay.
Therefore,
Yeah.
we have to rely on what we can sense based on what the search returns, or gives back to us, to rework it, or to reverse engineer it and figure out how the search engine is thinking. And therefore, I would give you some exceptions and certain uh, ways in which the search engine does not follow strict rules in
Okay.
linguistics. It finds way of convenience as well as a way of learning something through the collective wisdom of,
Mhm.
where
Yeah, I
people
get
are
it.
searching. Yeah. So that's why.
Yeah, in other words, you have to search and use your common sense to tighten the search.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
And
even I cannot claim that what I'm teaching you is going to be valid tomorrow or day after.
mhm,
Things change. In fact, Google has updated some algorithms. We were doing searches today, and we found that it's, it's kind of faltering. It's not delivering as, as requested. So there could be, things that change. It's very dynamic. I want you to look at, on the same note, I want you to look at this slide. This is Michelle, right? I was talking to Michelle, wasn't it?
Anna.
Anna, I apologize. I'm sorry because I can't, because I don't see your face. So I don't know.
Actually, I wasn't sure if we had started the class or not.
Well, we have though. I mean,
Okay.
why would you think that? It's not a casual
Well,
conversation.
because I asked a question and no one else is sort of coming in.
No,
So
no,
yeah.
no, it's okay. We are supposed to. It has to be more interactive. I wish everybody would be like you to, to be asking things. This is the convenience of doing online live classes, eh? So let's look at one example here that should give you an idea of what's happening with, reading something from left to right or right to left. But this exception in the format that I'm going to discuss with the query has two words, let's say internet or research, eh? Two of these. And now, um, what would happen when you move the terms being from left to right, and the term that's on the right to be switched to the left, as I've done in here. In this one, in the first one, I have internet or research versus research or internet. So when you switch terms in or,
Mm,
you will find the number of results are slightly different. Okay. So when you're putting something against or alongside OR, any terms on either side of it would be best to lay them in such a way that, the term on the left may be able to connect to the term on the right, and the term on the right has some relationship with the term on the left, so that you're comparing apples with apples. Um, now, in the sense of how we are, or how the search is going to look at the word that is on the left of it, is going to be considered as the first word or the first term, and the one that is on the right of it would be considered a second term. In the sense in which, remember, A and D was applied, or is assumed to be the first instance that would combine or find both terms together before it can look for either or. In that relationship, it would think internet and research if internet is the first word and research is the second word. Okay, so keep that in mind. I mean, these are the technicalities, eh? Technicalities that are difficult to remember, but always good to keep as reference. So these notes would go a long way when you find that something is not getting returned proper, then you will always look back and see what has been taught. So what happens when you have this internet on left and right is that it's going to find the phrase internet research. It is automatically going to try to combine internet with research and find internet research as a term. Okay, that's first default action. Second would be that it's going to find either the word internet as the as more convenient, or find research as more convenient. Either way, it is going to discover internet and research separately. Okay. Um, just to give you the actual way in which it is being interpreted, I'm going to show you another slide that's going to bring you or tell you how we discovered this phenomena. So when you get your search results returned, you will find with, okay, let the animation finish up. I hate it. Okay, all right, keep coming. Let's just finish it all. Now, on the left, where I have used internet first, you could see that internet research gets combined. You find results that shows more instances of these two coming together. This is giving you an example of what gets returned as, I mean, you don't have to go through the entire snippet set, but some of the results that show up, people also ask, and related searches like these ones, you can discover that more of the combination of these two words are setting in. This tells you or gives you an idea that it has a tendency to combine these two, as if internet and research together are popular enough or are significant enough that that makes it more meaningful. So it is going to start throwing internet research as two terms together. Whereas if you move the word or you shuffle it, making the positions of both these words the opposite of where they were before, you put research first, internet later. Just because research internet is not as prevalent or together, they don't make that powerful search phrase, or it's not as regular for people to mention research and internet together as if it is research internet. You would find that it's going to start to dissociate with the word internet, and it's going to treat individual word as separate to be prevalent or to be available. And therefore you could see that it has found results that use internet separate and research separate. This is what is showing. You could see internet more common, research less common, but still not as many of these combinations with the research internet. Therefore, there is a difference in the number of results that you will see. So the behavior of how OR would react when you change positions of your words, terms, would actually give you slightly different results, right? Is this making sense?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
All right, Brooks. There we go. Now, I sent you, didn't I give you this, or did I not put this in your Dropbox before? This was just for you to practice with or play with, I guess, with different ways in which A and D and OR can work. So anyway, you've got these as something that's just for self-learning. So we're pretty much done with, no, not yet, eh? OR is not as simple as you thought, eh? We've got we've got a bunch of things going on with OR. Okay. So here we go again with the words that are like two words on the left, two words on the right, and it might happen that you would end up not putting market study or market research within quotes, um, or let's say just to make things more complicated for you, made it look like this. Now, if this is how the search is put together, you would see that the default action of the search is that it is going to automatically combine these two words without even putting them within quotation marks, even though it is not a mandatory action, or it is not something that the search engine is definitely going uh, to be doing, but it would have that flexibility. Yet it is wise enough to understand that research alone or market alone is not as effective. So why not combine market research together? And it is more convenient to find, and it makes more sense linguistically. It has a better context, or whatever reason, it's just going to do it automatically, just because market research is more prevalent. Same way, you recall when we were doing examples of names like Steve Jobs, where Jobs could be, just another noun. It doesn't have to be part of the name. But because Steve Jobs together has a value, or it has that acceptance of being considered with relationship to the guy Steve Jobs himself. Therefore, it is not going to hesitate to combine the two together and make it into a name without you having the necessity to put it within the quotation mark. So this is another artificial intelligence that starts to, play with the words when they're more popular together. So assuming that market research is more popular, you could see the occurrence of market research. It is coming more frequently and literally ignoring market study altogether. Okay. So where we have a situation with popular words together as making more sense, it's going to do the job on its own, and it's just going to drop the word market study. Okay. Then there is a preference to, okay, this could also be a good approach to find what terms would be popular enough that you can get a better quality or better version of your um, mm, uh, I guess better version of how you have put the phrase for your search by just reading the results in competition with others that could uh, be equally good for you, I guess, would be equally beneficial. So you use OR to give it a command that, let's say, in this one, market research or marketing study or industry research, either of these three would do for you. So when you have multiple ORs and you have multiple terms to work against or with each other with the OR, you are basically creating a condition for the search engine to return results of the term, or the term that is going to be found more frequently would give an indication that this is a better search phrase, and you can have more options, or it has the material which is easily available on that subject, or any title of the return snippets that is bringing it from the content pages. is got the term market research as more prevalent, and therefore you may want to make those changes or fine tune your search to use, instead of market study, use the word market research, but use study or use industry as an additional set of words by not making it mandatory, but making it flexible without putting them within quotes. That's just theoretically, this is how I explained it. I don't have time to do it with the example, but we have another good example, which is talking about where most popular term is coming. So between the three, if market research is more prevalent, you could see that it has a priority 1 for the search engine. The term industry research, it is somewhere there. I guess there isn't enough space to put the, or maybe there is industry research somewhere, industry analysis. Anyway, industry research is priority 2, and marketing study is priority 3. That means least popular is marketing study. More popular is most popular is market research. So the priority with which these two terms or individual terms are more popular, that's going to start to show up. And the idea here should be that you should actually, and maybe I'll just show you, if I had to make a decision based on what got returned, I would probably fine tune my query. First, I'll just copy it and then see if I can make it a better one based on the return results that you are looking at. So let's suppose I have a query such as this. Knowing that market research is more popular, I would just eliminate how about this? Knowing that this, see, anything that I'm going to force the search to find has to be that quality of word or that impactful phrases that so if they are enforced, they'd be able to scoop up or find more documents with the word market research with relationship to study or industry. Okay, so this becomes a mandatory command with the quotations in. Study or industry could be an option, and you could do with both or either. So if it can find market research and something do with study, or market research something do with industry, with the or in between, and it being where study and industry both are acceptable, this could be a better query. So you just have to run OR as I showed you, and then find what is more prevalent in order to give it a mandatory or force that term to work alongside the others, which could be a choice. Okay. Uh, so if you did, let's suppose you did market, instead of market research, you did market study, and it is not able to find a lot of um, mm, it's not to find, it's not able to find a lot of documents that has the word market study on it, then the impact of the word research and industry would also be compromised. Like there'll be less from the pool or the population to take out that sample or bring that results to you. All right. So I would rather do market research because I know that this is going to find a document, and a chance is that I should be able to get the words market study or industry. Okay, and you don't have to put an A and D here. Okay, only because the quotation mark itself, because if you put A and D, it is going to create another set of problems. Why? Because study and market research will combine together, and then or would only have an option of the word industry that would actually bring as a choice only the word industry. And if it couldn't find market research plus study, it will default onto the word industry and will give you irrelevant results. Okay, so just leave it like this. Let this and this be a choice, and let this be a mandatory return. Okay, the use of NOT. It's a minus sign. We learned that only a minus sign would work. NOT as a term is not going to work. I sent you a link. Remember the other day, I believe a class before the one we had previously, I guess last week, was it? I sent you a link on a video that we have prepared.
Yeah.
Let me show you what it is. Really, I mean, we have some videos that you should have access to, and that is on YouTube. So let me see where it's at. If I go to YouTube, I don't quite remember the link, but let's see. I think this is the one.
Important for users to worry about web search results.
So I'm just giving you a link right now that you can just copy and paste. Where is it? It has some videos, and we are adding to it as we finish up more. You would find it interesting uh, to learn from some of these that are already prepared. Like the one that we have over here, it is talking about booleans. This we did 7 days ago. This was done 8 hours ago. So both of these are available along with others, but a lot of these are not as relevant. Uh, but however, I will point to the one that is I'm looking at right now. I don't want to write them, but you can see where I'm pointing to this one. The 12 essential elements of professional online research. It will give you a perspective of how you would be proceeding with covering the course in CIRS, as well as give you an overview of what it takes to become a professional research specialist, especially doing it as a profession, as a full-time profession. So this is a good slide for that. Why web research skills are important? This is optional, don't have to. But this one, the one that is the one that I'm looking at right now, pointing to this one and the other one. Just click on these to get to understand a few things, especially the ones, it's more like a revision for you. Okay? So I'm going to leave this part and go back to the slide. Before we start with the minus sign, I'm going to take a break, and I'll get back in about 10 minutes, and we'll continue from there on. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm back. I'm sorry, I'm a tiny bit late today. With the break, took me longer than I thought. Okay. I guess everybody's on board, and you can see my screen, and you can hear me. so we can move on. What's the story with the NOT? First of all, NOT as a word which is supposed to be Boolean in capital N and O and a T together. That's considered by the search as talking about Google, nothing else. The NOT works fine with Bing, okay, FYI. But as far as Google is concerned, that wouldn't accept it and it'll treat it as a word. So you have to use a notation which is a minus sign. But supposing there was a word, can you hear me all? Is it okay? So all good.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. All right. So we would look at example number 2. And in this one, you could see that I'm talking about a peach and not a peach pie. So whenever you're going to put a minus sign next to any word that is attached to it, that's exactly the word that the search is going to treat as the negative word, we call it, a word that needs to be avoided in your results. But look at what you intended initially for the word to be excluded. You added, you basically, when you put a minus sign here, peach is actually going to work against the word peach, which is what you thought that you were looking for. But at the same time, it has eliminated it, contradicting it. However, if you intended to remove the word peach pie, you need to put these two within the quotation marks, which means the one that we have at the very bottom, or maybe just keeping the wordings intact, I would do it this way. Did you notice how the quotation mark opens started with inverted as if it is a closed quotation mark? This becomes an error that usually, people don't get to see because, when you have such small fonts and you're putting it in the search bar, you kind of miss out on where it is pointing to. So what it is, I don't know, it is how the keyboard reacts. It just sort of attaches as if it is inverted close to the minus sign. And this is what you have to be watchful about. Otherwise, if you do the way that it's showing right now and you put it in like this, it's not going to do it. It is basically an error of constructing your query. So what you might want is, first of all, give it a space, make it quotation mark open, and then quotation mark close. And now remove the gap. This has now become correct. Okay, so you're only looking for peaches and not peach pie. The third one, peach ice cream minus peach pie, is incorrect again. So the correct one you could see right here, peach pie, put it within quotation marks. So nothing complicated about using the minus sign. Just few things you have to be mindful about. Yeah. Again, the relationship song starts. Okay. What it means. X except Y, the impact of X without Y. The only thing that I would see coming in the exams is and it is not as usual, so just so you know, if they give you a set of relationships and they ask you what it's talking about, you know that this is a minus sign. When you can, and as you read it, you can actually make a guess. The X except Y, except means exclude Y, the impact of X without Y. So, without Y means that it has to be eliminated, so on. Not much to talk about. The false positive scenario, a situation which is very much prevalent in finding results on something for which the wordings are the same, but the intention of or the objective of your search might be different. Or linguistically, it is totally correct, but it is giving signals which are mixed signals. As an example, so what does false positive means? Okay, it is explained briefly in these wordings. It is saying that search terms but does not match the essence of what you are trying to find. So still not as easy to explain, but better to look at this example right here. You could see that it has a name John Smith, and it has the words like resume. Um, Thing is that the search wouldn't know if you are looking for resumes, or you are someone who is a recruiter that wants to find the resume of John Smith, or whether you are giving a job to someone and it is in the careers or in open jobs situation, if that is the reason why you're looking for the resume. So it is, the word is correct, you are looking for a resume of John Smith, but in what sense? So you may want to eliminate or exclude terms that sort of gives it a slightly different meaning by taking away the words like jobs. Like, you are not offering jobs, you're not looking for sample or samples of resume. Incidentally, the word John Smith is similar to how people use the word John Doe, right? Just as example, and I found that John Smith works more or less the same way. So if you have samples of resume, they would start showing up. Okay, you don't want templates, you don't want samples. Uh, you don't want something to do with offering jobs. All you want is to find John Smith's resume that got lost, which you were looking for. Okay, and you get tons of examples with these wordings in it. So by the process of elimination, you can get rid of certain terms to fine tune it and to make it appear more um, more to the objective of your search. So that's where minus sign works really well. And then, there are situations with the name of some, celebrity or famous people that incidentally have a name matching somebody else that you're looking for, not exactly that famous person, but more prevalent results are of that famous name or famous person. So you cannot navigate out of that clutter of unnecessary or irrelevant wordings. So what you end up doing with the minus sign is that you start to take away certain wordings that are contextually connected with that famous name. Uh, Example is shown in a book which I would point to and ask you to look up if you feel that you want to look at the example, or how some of the confusions can be reduced. I wished I had opened the book, but I can get to it. Opening up the book, you would see that we have a classic example of how the minus sign can work really well in a certain situation. And let me just bring that up quickly. Mm, Yes, Brooks.
I just a question on the minus. Now, if you were looking to exclude results, like let's say you put in, or you were looking for someone, let's say called Tom Cruise, and you want to exclude all the, Tom Cruise results, the actor, could you do Tom Cruise minus actor, minus famous, minus movies, that kind of thing? Now, does it matter what order you would do those minuses?
No, no, there is no necessity for the order, except that there are certain conventions which becomes a standard, and it is good to follow standard practice of how it is done. We cannot claim that it is like, for instance, if you use a minus sign starting with any query followed by the word, that's not a good way of writing. You should always put anything that needs to be deducted, or as in mathematics, that it has to be on the right hand of where your search, the primary keywords are, and then you start to use negative signs with the wordings that follow that primary keyword set. So you don't start with a minus sign with any query that you're putting. So that's the only important rule. Second rule is that there is a length that is allowed for the number of characters that you can put inside of a query. Like, you can't make a huge or a very long query. So there could be, and this is why we have this example, and that's what I'm looking for. It's going to explain it, the same phenomena. So there is a limit of, I believe there is a limit of 128 characters to a search query, which means it includes the dashes, it includes any notations, any gaps, everything that occupies that space through the entire length of that search string. That is individually counted as the number of characters, and therefore you have to be mindful it should not be long enough that would exceed 128 characters. That's the second part. Otherwise, I don't see any hard and fast rule. Where is that?
Good answer. Thank you very much.
Sure, you're most welcome. So for when certain keyword terms have search results. Okay, so this is the one. That's why it is hiding rule advanced. It's interestingly, I wrote the book, but I'm navigating through the chapters just to see where I put it. That's interesting. Where did I lose it? Okay, this is the example. If you look into page 189 of the book, you will find that there is a heading at the bottom that says search for person's name when masked by the same name of famous person. There's a query example, and this pretty much covers the entire situation where you would, and I don't mind, I mean, I can just open it up. For example, you have Rex Harrison, all right? Rex Harrison is an actor, famous for the movie, what is for the character like Dr. Dolittle. Um, and it is everywhere. So to find another gentleman with the same name who is also famous, but not as much, who used to be a football player at one time, a famous one, his name was Rex Harrison's as well. So to find that individual that is not the actor, you had to create or to go through a process in order for you, because you see, there are so many variables that stick to or connect with Rex Harrison that even if you want to eliminate each one of them, it's going to make it a very long search query. And therefore, one has to design a method so that it would actually make it concise enough and still uh, retrack, or basically it's going to take out some of the contexts that Rex Harrison has, but at the same time add better context to the actual Rex Harrison you're looking for. So refining or adding more context alternate retrospectively would also eliminate the need for you to take out other terms that are attached to the actor Rex Harrison. You understand what I'm saying? So, you're padding up the actual Rex Harrison you're looking for versus the one you don't need by adding more context to what Rex Harrison, the football player, has in specifically as niche words or as words that are only connected to the football player and not the actor. So you are padding up the context on one side, and in a way you're eliminating the need to take out the other attributes or other contexts that are attaching to Rex Harrison. So that sort of balances it. That's what I'm saying. So with this example, you will see that we have used different ways of figuring out how to get to the football player by showing different step, consider possible contextual queries, so you can make these query. The Christian name could be the same also, and that could create a problem. William Rex Harrison, that's exactly the name of the actor, or a Christian name for the actor himself. And at the same time, you want to make sure that you can add other context, which is for the football player. Incidentally, the player is also known by the name Elon Eel. That was, I guess, another one that you can add. And so it continues. So all I'm saying is that you can't make it too long. Okay. Don't think that minus sign is going to allow you to keep adding as much as you want to it. So that's another thing. Let's look at some of the examples. Here, I think we have used minus signs. And we're going to look at 1 through 6. The first one, okay, internet research jobs, fine, fine, fine. I'm just going to focus on the minus ones. So in 3, you could see that this was one way someone wrote the query, assuming that the minus sign would work fine when you use the OR as an option against the word web search specialist jobs. And what is this query trying to do? First, they try to put a minus sign before or for the word. So if you're doing a minus sign, you can't do a minus sign along with or and the term that is also not a minus, that is not a minus sign. So if I take out this example and try to run it in a notepad, perhaps I can make it more easy for you to understand. So let me just pick this and show you what I'm trying to say with okay. This is the bunch we have. First of all, as a convention, when you have minus sign, what student used to do is that they used to think that they can take away the word resume from internet research specialist as a term that needs not have the word itself, the word resume, or they think that web search specialist jobs should not include the word resumes. Either of these two would work. Essentially, mistake is over here. So let's suppose these are the two sets. I'm just putting the parenthesis for explaining things, just to group it. So the thought was that this could be one group and this could be another group. You cannot write it like this. So what is the correct way? Whenever you have to eliminate something from the choice of search terms with the or in between, you should put what needs to be taken out towards the end of the query, or as if these two are sorted out first, and whatever the outcome is, you want that outcome to not include the word resume. Okay. Similarly, if there was another word that I wouldn't want, let's say CVs, I can put a minus sign. I can put a minus sign for what is called bio data. Okay. So I can put minus signs, but only like the way I have shown it. Okay. And now to make it a real query, I'll just remove the brackets. And that's how it's going to correct itself. So this is correct to write. Similarly, can I write? Say if I wrote another word here, and I don't want both of these terms, like web research specialist jobs or internet research specialist jobs, to be included in my search. The only way that I can use the minus sign with the OR is when I have two terms that can actually contain the minus sign, as if I want either this or the other one to be excluded. So with the OR, I'm able to do it, but as long as I'm matching how the function is going to be executed, it needs to have minus on both sides to exclude either this or this. So if the term internet research specialist comes or web research specialist jobs comes, you don't want that. Either of those should not be prevalent. But basically, logically, you don't need to with the or when you have the option to just simply put the minus sign. I'd rather do it like this, right? But still, some people want to give it an option so they can use or, but the condition I told you, it has to have a minus sign. I have to, okay. Okay. Uh, this part clear? What else is there? Okay, so that's about it basically for the minus sign, eh? Gosh, I've taken so much of your time already. All right, so I think we're pretty much, what is it? Five, we still have half an hour to go. We can, is my clock correct? Yeah, my God. Looks like just because just the notion that it's going to be holidays coming to from tomorrow onwards, it is giving me that sense of relaxation and making me lazy already. That's why I'm looking at the time. All right. Carry on with what we have with, oh, so we're done with NOT and a minus sign. Not going to use NOT. Now let's look at some of the symbols. The way we are going to substitute notations with the Boolean itself. This is okay. So let's suppose we have finch or sparrow and exotic. So if we have to replace OR and A and D, what is it that we should be doing based on what we have learned so far? Nice, eh? So instead of OR, you can use the vertical bar with the two spaces on either side. Then where you have A and D, you can replace it by putting the term inside of the quotation marks. Okay. And this is the best way to write it, not the one that is on the left-hand side. I'm just giving you a tip here, not that it's a rule, but at least as far as the quotation mark enclosure is concerned, this is the best way. You should avoid using A and D to prevent terms from attaching to whatever is on one side and the other. So that's why I've put exotic within quotes, literally translating what is on the left with the wordings of Boolean versus notations and symbols we've used. If we have, by the way, the again, the parenthesis is showing up, but never mind the parenthesis. You don't use the parenthesis. However, the best way when you are doing a query that is shown on the left with these symbols here is to do the search this way, finch and exotic, where finch is connecting with exotic as the first instance, and then sparrow and exotic connecting as the second instance. So when you are going to run a query like this one without using the parenthesis, which I think I can remove, I can safely remove it. I don't need that. So this is how the query should be. If you want to translate this query on the left, you would rather write it like this, just the way it's shown here on top. The result would be that you would get either French plus exotic, or you would get sparrow plus exotic. All right. Okay, here it is parenthesis, not work in Google search. All right. We know that, we've learned it. Remember the example I asked you to look up in the book, which is about parentheses, or where the parentheses are not effective. This is kind of giving an illustration. It's more of the same, but we can talk about it. So let's suppose there is a group. Now you have to visualize, have to use your imagination. If it is a fruit basket, if it's a basket that has both fruits and vegetables, and basically they're in different groups. So veggies is one group, fruits is another group. Let's just call the veggies, pumpkin and carrot as group A, and this is group B. And what you want to do or ask the search is, first of all, to separate the vegetables and the fruits and treat them as two different groups, and to search for either a pumpkin in the group of veggies or apples in the group of fruits. How would you create the query? So the expression would be veggies and fruits because this is what the basket has. So this is a population or the combination of two different groups. Out of these groups, you want to run a query to find pumpkin and carrot as one group. Not find yet, but let's say it is separated now. Veggies and fruits are further broken down as pumpkin and carrots and orange and apples. So this is how you're going to write it. We are explaining it through algebraic expressions in the most simplified way. So let's suppose we want the search to find pumpkin or carrot or orange or apples. So replacing A and D with OR here, replacing pumpkin and between pumpkin and carrot, replacing OR here to make these two an option. And this is another option. So there's one option and two options. Now the query has to find from the basket either one of these from two groups, which means either find pumpkin or carrot or find orange and apple. So you need one fruit at least and one vegetable at least. Perhaps if you do it or turn it into an expression of a search query, you would write it like this, right? Pumpkin or carrot and orange or apple. So now look what happens. Carrot and oranges, they combine together. So basically contradicting OR over here, which would use carrot and pumpkin as an option and orange and apple as an option. In other words, carrot and oranges got combined or got added or became mandatory. So basically not really making the OR functional to have a choice between orange, apple, and pumpkin and carrot. So literally between carrot, the carrot may combine with pumpkin, or carrot may combine with orange, or carrot may combine with apple, because here now it is going to start to connect like this. And at the same time, it is getting confused between A and D and OR, which has taken away the carrot and orange, as if it is now no longer an executable search to make a choice between orange or apple. So it is going to have an erratic behavior. Okay, that's why it is not a good idea. In the sense of how you would be able to overcome this situation, is best to split the query in two parts, where you would do pumpkin or carrot as a separate search and do orange or apple as a separate search. And then looking at the results, you would be able to find those options working with OR. Basically, the combinations or anything that you want to separate in groups and make the groups act with the OR is not functional or is not recommended. So we would have to literally, to avoid these erratic combinations. See, all these combinations are not controlled anymore, just because we've used the A and D alongside OR. So just so you get an idea that had there been the if I let me just go back, if there was the parenthesis that would work, then the results would be different. What's going on? See. Yeah, let me just pick it up. I don't like animation at all. This is a problem. So I lose control of it, just becomes too much of a scripted thing. Yeah. So if these were groups, mathematically or algebraically, or how it should have been intended, basically being part of the algebra of how the Boolean should function, it is behaving different when you want to run it in a search query. So if the parentheses were working, it would mean that this part will get resolved first, and another group should get resolved first, and then whatever the outcome is, it should then start to combine with one another. So if the word carrot was more prevalent, more common, more available, you would find carrot is resolved first. Let's say apple against oranges is more common, then this should be the outcome, ideally. And what you would find is words carrot and apple being selected or being returned. This is how it should be. But it's not going to happen this way, because parentheses are no longer the containers, or are no longer following the rules of algebra. And therefore, this could be an issue that you want to avoid. So you have to run both the queries separate. In other words, parenthesis is not a good idea. Putting an A and D is not a good idea. So best is to run these queries separately. Okay. At the same time, if you're going to use another OR, then this is perhaps another way of finding either one of these terms, but they would not be returning or resolving what is a group or what is inside of a group, like the fruits versus the vegetables. It's not going to resolve it. It's just going to either find pumpkin or carrot or orange or apple, or combine orange and apple or pumpkin. So it's again, going back into circles. Okay. Okay, we're going to get to the symbols later on. Going to open up another slide. Have you heard of the around operator or the proximity operator? No one, I. Okay.
Don't think I have.
You have. Have you used it ever?
No, I said I don't think I have. I don't think I've used that before.
Okay, okay.
I think I have. A long time ago. It was you use it within, you want to find the word within a certain number of words?
Correct. Absolutely. So that means that I'll be refreshing your memory, and perhaps you can connect with what you know of it. But let me just explain a chart which basically is giving you an overview of how we are going to cover these concepts of precision search versus proximity search. Proximity search is actually something for which we are not sure of, or the words we don't know of. We have an idea about something, or perhaps we remember partially some of the words, but we don't quite recall the entire terms. And therefore, it is not as accurate, or it is a kind of a search that's going to bring the best results that search can find on account of what you have used for doing your proximity searches. Another thing in proximity is the wildcards or asterisks, a placeholder. This is a symbol or a mark of an asterisk that basically fills in the gap of what you don't know, or could be a character, a spelling, a number of words that are missing. So both the asterisks, the notation itself, and an operator we called around, these two are supposed to be proximity search operators, and we label them as proximity because it is not the same as precision search. Precision is where we are using the search operators, combination of basic booleans as well as advanced operators, just so that we have the ability or have enough keywords to make the search return something with more precision. So it is more controlled search, and we call that precision search. This chart is giving you an outline of what needs to be covered, or what is required for you to become online researcher. It's not just putting the search queries together. There are other things that we'll be learning along the way. So online search is split into two parts, where I'm right now explaining to you the search queries. The other part is search tools and utilities, which are ancillary to our main topics, which is falling under the search query. Whereas search tools and utilities are something that we will discuss a little bit. These are more on the assistive side. So we have separated them into different types of tools on the left, this box. And within the search query, we've got keywords and search phrases, which we did. And then we are going to see how search operators are basic and advanced. Advanced we haven't used yet. Basic we are considering and or not, which we've done. Now, as far as advanced are concerned, we've got a structure which is typically used to build operators, that is named, or which has a text followed by the colon sign. So we learn what it means with the words used, as well as the colon. Colon has a huge importance for the search engine, that sort of makes it or triggers actions against what is written before it. Uh, Obviously, if you don't use the colon sign, the entire word is treated as a text and not a query. So the colon sign is what makes it executable, or what makes it a query command or an operator. Then within the search operators, we are going to look at methods, two approaches we are going to we'll be adopting. One is called precision search, and the other one is proximity search, where proximity search is the one that I'm going to start with. In proximity search, we've got around, and we've got this is how the operator looks like. So you're going to use the capital letters, using the word AROUND. uh, by the way, in Bing they use another word. It's called I think it's called near, NEAR, all with capital letters, but the structure is the same, which means that what is followed by the word is a bracket or parenthesis that has a placeholder using X, or we could put any symbol, it doesn't matter. But just so you know what is held inside of these parentheses is a number or a numeric that tells the search that finds something within the range of the number of words denoted by what you put as number of words or numerics. If you put 5 or 6, 6 could be the maximum number of words that needs to be present or is missing, on approximate basis. You don't know precisely, but on approximate basis. So that number of words inside would be what is represented by the X here. And the operator is around parenthesis, number of words, and parenthesis close. Asterisk is just the symbol itself. I'm going to have to look up some of the examples to see if I can take you there quickly. Take a better example. Andy Rubin, Steve Jobs. I think this is easy. So if I want to explain the operator, I would approach it like this. I'm going to have to use the notepad most of the time with this. So let's just zoom it a little bit. Say Steve Jobs around 10. What was the other name? Rubin, eh? First of all, these are two names, so I'm going to put them inside of the quotes. And the way you're going to construct the query using the around is that it has to have the terms on either side of it. Like you can't leave anything blank or nothing before the around. And the same thing, you have to put something after the around. What around is asking or looking for, or how you've commanded, is for the around to find the missing words in between these two names. Meaning that with reference to these two names of Steve Jobs and Andy Rubin, there could be number of words that on your best guess could be 10 words or less. So it has to be either 10 or less, in the sense in which it is going to return the query that completes whatever is in between as number of words. Be mindful that it is going to treat Steve Jobs as first set of words and Andy Rubin as second sets in a sentence where Steve Jobs is going to be the first, or it's going to be part of a sentence or a part of a statement where Steve Jobs would be the word that is starting it, and Andy Rubens is the word that is going to be followed after the missing 10 words that's going to be filled in. Still, Andy Rubin is not going to be the first word in the return results. Steve Jobs will always be the first word. Then we have another. Let's run the query. I think we have got time to do it. So the word ON is just one word, but it's still less than 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, anything that is in parenthesis right here is considered as one search term as far as the description is returned. So if I count the words 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are 10 words. And there is the word Reuben here. Andy, they didn't complete it, but at least I picked up the word Reuben. Here is another example, Steve Jobs and Andy Rubin. And the number of words should not exceed 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, still under 10 words. So that's where it will may become a restrictor to find something that is missing in between. If it is, and there's another example which is even better, which makes it worthwhile to use the around operator. This example, life's a stage, men and women merely players. So if you don't quite remember the entire famous line of a play somewhere, and you just remember the first few words or the last few words or partially completed sentences, you can use the around as long as you have something that is followed by the around operator against what starts with it on one side or the left side of it, it is going to be functional. In other words, if I life's a stage around 10. I have to write the whole thing. I don't want to do that. Can try that. Because I don't have that. It's actually, let me see if I can copy. I can. Hold on. Let me try it. This sounds about right. Men and women merely players around 10. I guess just have to go and check with it. Disable my ad blocker? No. Don't want to do that. Get one, two, three, four, five, six. Just keep it'll just won't go in, it won't exceed 10 words. And anything that is in parentheses and it is showing in description is not counted as a single word. I'm sorry, it is just counted as a single word and not as number of words. So if you want to count them one by one, you would see that it should not exceed 10. And this is based on approximation. So the way we do searches sometimes is that we start with a large number which could be, let's say, 50 or 60. And then, when you do 50 or 60 words, likelihood is that you would find one set of words in one para and another set um, is going to be in the third or fourth or on deeper layers of those textual content. So, it gives it a lot of room. But if you know that the the two words or the two terms would have less number of words to give it a better sense or make it connect with it with the wordings which on approximation could not exceed X number of words, put those numbers there. But if you are doing it, where, you want to, do it based on uh, probability of finding something, then you start with a large number, start reducing it, and see if it is coming closer or getting connected. Mostly, if it is like in the case of Steve Jobs, if there was an article which I read about Steve Jobs and Andy Rubin some time ago, and I don't quite remember the statement or the bold captions or the title of it, and knowing that, it was something that had both the names, but not a huge para of info, maybe just a few lines. I would just kind of use my best option, which is using around operator, and put the two terms to see if it can bring 10 or less, 10 or more. So I can start adjusting that until I find that connection or that relationship. So this is where around is going to work fine, but you have to also remember when you're using around, you don't put both terms within the quotations. So if this was coming back to this one, if the terms, where was it that I put in? If this is what I was using, and supposing I put in the quotation marks, the two terms, like if I use quotation marks, I can do that also. This would make it even better. But the only problem is that if you make an error even with an S here, or if you don't put the correct word here, and it is all in quotation marks, around is going to fail. It will not work. So when you're, writing something inside of the quotations, always have to make sure that it is accurate to the, with the singular, plural, spelling, whatever you want to put it. One thing that you can also do with the same sort of search using around, you can perhaps the asterisk. Okay, this sort of tells the search that there is a missing word and you want that word to be found by the search first before it is going to act or react to around 10. So likelihood is that the asterisk would place the missing word if you don't quite remember the last two words. Yeah. So if there was a paragraph, can you think of any terms that are, or the two terms, or let's say even in life's a stage, let's suppose I want to look for an article. Let's look at this one. Okay. Now, if let's see if we can get to the same search by putting, first let's just create a query. And since you've asked about the paragraph, so we're going to do the paragraph. 50 words.
Hmm.
That's me taking a huge
Hmm.
gamble with finding the right. I want to get to this page by using around and to pick something from one para or a part from one para, and then this is another para, third para that follows it. And I'm going to also put it in the search query. I believe it will be at least 50 words, if not less. So let's say right, or maybe 60 words, I don't know, 50, 60 words. You think it will be 50, 60 words here? Between this and let's see, where did we pick it from? Did I pick this one from? Okay, never mind. Let's run it. So let's just copy and paste it and see what happens. It's a very long query. I'm guessing let's 80 words. Let's be more bold on this. Okay. Now I'm inserting this and let's see if it's going to find it or not. It's too long. It's too long. Next thing that I would do is to open it a little, to give it a breather. If it is not doing a good job, maybe we can ease up the conditions. I'm going to remove the divisions and see what happens. Now, if I click on this, is it going to be the same page, you think? It is.
Yeah.
Wow, it's magical, isn't it? Hmm? So I guess that answers your question. Who was it? I was again, I'm not sure. It was
Anna.
Myra, huh?
Anna.
Myra, Anna, sorry. So you see, it did work. Okay. It picked up a sentence or part of the sentence from one para. I think it was here somewhere. Then I picked up another piece from another para, and I got to the same page. Right. So that's it. We got to go and enjoy and have fun. We got 3 days. It's a blessing. Any plans? Or are you already making plans? Eh? So around is something that we will use. And one of the examples that I would recommend, since you have 3 days, I think it will be a good idea for me to let you know some of the pages you may want to look up. 198, page 198, I don't know if you've marked it or not, but when I say it and record it, I can tell you that there's nowhere else I'm putting it except in the recording, and unless you write it, you won't be able to get to it later. So 198 is the page, which is going to talk about, I guess the minus sign for false positive scenario. That's actually, it's going to be more interesting and explained much better if you look up these pages. And then when we talk about around, there is an example on page 200 in which we have used the around operator quite effectively and for a reason. And based on what we wrote or what's in the book, you would see that it not only develops your concept of using a round, but you also get to learn the utility of it or the benefit of it. Advantages in so many ways when the information is scarce or it's partially you know of it partially and not as complete context that you'd like to give, so you can use it. And page 200 is what I'll point you to. Now the next thing is the aesthetics. Aesthetic is kind of, it looks easy, but it is very complicated in how it is utilized, or how it follow, or how it does not follow certain rules of putting terms within the quotation marks. This is a concept of understanding an exception where if we put a term inside of the quotes, we know that it is verbatim, meaning that it needs to be literally matched as is, with the intention that the search has to bring a mirror image of what is placed inside of the quotation marks. That is the concept, and we all agree with it, and that's the regular part. But the exception of where certain notations or not certain symbols are considered verbatim, the asterisk has a different meaning. It is not treated as a similar to stop notations or stop words, but rather has a deeper meaning for the search, where it would not treat that asterisk as a matching symbol, but in fact a command inside of the quotes that says to fill in the gap or fill in what is missing. So to put that in an example, I don't know, I just like to work with the examples that are already there, because then I have to create one and I have to think. And I don't like to think when I'm teaching, right? There, hold on. Here is um, so the asterisk, what are we to do with it? Taking this example of a search string will make it easy, get rid of something we don't require right now. Observe the asterisks where it is used. You could see that all of this is inside of the quotation marks. It is always a good idea to use asterisks when you have a statement or a search terms within enclosed quotes. That's because it sort of gives it a perimeter, like the two extremities or anything that is encapsulated or covered within the quotes is a demarcation of as far as the aesthetic is going to create a relationship or understand a relationship between words, and not to look for something that is outside of the quotation mark. So this is pretty much the area that it's going to play inside of. So if the statement here conquering the, you don't remember the word, you're just going to put a asterisk. But most importantly, remember that if we have something within quotation, what was the indicator that what was the what was the action of search? Search action was to take everything literally as it is placed, including the symbols, right? So, so if it was something that was a question mark or dash or whatever else, you can recall from the examples we did previously, it had to be matched verbatim as is. But with the only exception, or the only exception is when you place an asterisk here, it is not treated as a stop word or a symbol that is ignored or a symbol that needs to be matched. Rather, it is something which needs to be resolved. So with the placement, second part is that look at the placement of it. If you had to look for a word or an entire word in between these two words, the word they and the word and, you need to leave a gap of a single character in between the word and the symbol, so that the symbol is saying that there could be a single word, or there could be bunch of words, or it could be anything that is missing. At the same time, the asterisk is also calculating what is preceding it as number of words or sequence of words, and what is the words that is coming after, so that it is making that relationship. And it is not only looking at A and D, but it is skipping and looking at off, grief, and whatever is held inside of the quotation. So the relationship or the reference to anything that is on the left and right of it is what is going to direct the asterisk to find the missing part or the missing word, or anything that it thinks would have a relationship with other wordings around it, so that it can fill it up. Same thing with another asterisk placed, meaning that asterisk can work or can be placed multiple times inside of the quoted or even outside, but let's just stick to what is inside of the quotes right now. Idea here is for you to know that the placement is correct, has to be correct, so that you know that whatever is missing is going to be preceded by or will be followed by the words that are set here on either side of asterisk. And not just one word after, but the word that is following as the number of words or sequence of words after. So off and grief, and the wordings conquering the and, all of it is building a relationship so that it can find the missing word between and, of, grief, and rest of it. Basically, placement is one thing. Second is that remember, it is not treat if you place it inside of quotes, it's not verbatim. It is not looked at as a symbol, but rather as triggering an action or a command that needs to be attended to inside or within the demarcated area of number of words held within quotation marks. So that's where I would explain it. Rest of it is not as important. This part was most important. We will do these examples in more detail. We have a lot of examples using asterisks, but right now it is just the part where I would want you to think of it as a workable solution. If you want me to run it in the query, I can do that as well. Let me try it. We can try few examples, and we do have, maybe let's just spend 5 minutes. Let's see what it's going to bring back to us. Okay. So the missing words were the mysteries and lies of grief, right? Conquering the mysteries, and is there, and then lies is the other word. So the two words missing were mysteries and lies. And just because the placement is correct, that's why it has pulled this sequence. If you had not put any of these words correctly or don't quite remember them, don't put them, because it's just going to kill the query totally. Other than this, what I would like to replace it with is, let's say, how many words between the and of grief? Where is it? 1, 2, 3. 3 words. So let's suppose instead I just put around and I put 5 words, restricted to 5 words. What is it going to do? Yeah, I can use all of these terms. That's fine. Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry. I can't put the quotations here. My error. Same results, eh? So around I can use and I can use asterisks and I would get exactly same results. Thank you. Call it a day also. Take care of yourselves. See you on Monday. Have a nice holidays, kind of holidays, and take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye.
so much. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you all too. Thanks. Bye bye.